Everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this special meeting of Council. We've got a couple of topics to discuss today. We have two topics to be discussed in camera and a couple of topics to be discussed out of. Carolyn, where shall we start?
Roll call.
All right. Start off with a roll call. District 1.
Present, Prout.
District 2.
McDonald.
District 3.
Wayne Fowler.
District 4 is currently absent. Councillor McNeil. District 5.
Gregory Hemming.
District 6.
Alec Morrison.
District 7 is myself, Timothy Hibinsky. District 8. Councillor Gunn. There he is. District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10.
Martha Roberts.
And District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
All right, thanks so much. Now, okay, so let's begin. Where are we starting, folks? Carolyn, what are our out of camera topics?
So there are 4 items that I sent you the RFDs last night.
Okay.
First one is the selection of vendor for the electronic election.
Right.
The second one is the tariff of fees and expenses.
Thank you.
The third one is the municipal election service plan. And the fourth item is additional capital requests.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's start off with the election vendor. Perhaps our returning officer to speak to this, Mr. Patterson.
Okay, well, thank you. So the recommendation from staff is that we choose IntelliVote. They are the main vendor across the province, and as the RFD explains, they are the vendor that has already gone through an RFD with provincial support to get the best set of services and the best pricing, and to offer that to any Nova Scotia municipality.
Okay. All right. Deputy Ward, would you like to read the recommended motion for us?
That Municipal Council authorizes the selection of IntelliVote Systems Incorp. as our electronic election service vendor for the 2020 municipal election.
All right. Second for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Oh, Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, I seem to have a lot of problems with electronic voting. And anyway, the people of Annapolis County have a little bit no internet in a lot of areas. Also, Bear River, Springfield, Outram, and other outlying areas would have a lot of problems voting and would have a long ways to travel to vote at a single poll station. And also, there's less and less hard lines in Annapolis County phones and what have you in Annapolis County. And and after 1 or 2, 3 calls into vote on a phone, if it can't get through with only 3 people answering phones and what have you, they're going to give up. Also, cell phones today are more used for texting than anything else. Okay, thank you.
Carolyn?
If I could just make a comment in there to allay at least some of that for Councillor Fowler. People are not calling a person to place their vote. They're calling a specific number. They're only calling a person if they need assistance. And those people will be for a 2-week period that they'll be available for assistance. So people are not calling somebody to place their vote. They're calling a system to place a vote.
Out of curiosity, how many simultaneous calls can the system accommodate? Or do we know?
I don't know if that's ever been asked.
Its capacity is expected to be huge. They know how much they will need for this election, and that would have been looking at their capabilities and capacity would have been part of that RFP, definitely.
All right. Councillor Sheridan?
I was just going to say, if you take into account that it did the municipal election, or it will be doing Halifax, the municipality of Halifax, I mean, there are many, many more people there than there are in Annapolis County. So if it's geared toward that, I'm sure that we can handle it here with less than what is it, 20,000 voters?
They're doing 40 out of 50, 40 out of 52 municipalities currently. They were looking at 2 more we're going to be signing on in Nova Scotia.
Right. They're equipped.
Excellent. All right. Anything further? Not all in favor of the motion, say, oh, Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. So just to clarify, we're still going to have some polling stations with one of these machines there that people can go.
This motion right now is just selecting the vendor.
Okay, we're going to get to the other.
We are, yes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Councillor McDonald? No?
No, sir, I was reaching for my unmute button on my
Gotcha.
iPad.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Next on the full service election package.
That council choose the full service election options as prepared, pardon?
It doesn't matter. They can do it in that order.
Okay.
As prepared by staff.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion on the motion. Deputy Warden.
Well, I see down here in supporting information that it says, due to the time required to set up the computers, internet hubs over 3 days leading up to October 17th, we have carefully concluded that 11 halls with 2 public use voting computers per hall is the most that can be set up and supported by our municipal technology. So that does mean, if this is passed, that we are not going to have more than 1 polling station in some districts.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, that isn't going to work.
Now,
That's not going to work.
so let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So this is a time frame issue, and it's a capacity issue for IT. Is there no possibility to begin the process of set up earlier than 3 days in advance?
Earlier than that, no, because it takes time to set up. We're renting the equipment. So the equipment has to come. It will be pre-packaged for what we need. It'll be all set up. But IT has to go to each of those communities. IT has driven to each community hall, the 32 that we had on the original list, to check internet capabilities. So what we've determined is if there is 1 hall in each district, it will be the best location for connectivity in that.
So does anybody know where those halls are located? Because I would like to know where that hall would be located in my area.
Are the 11 indicated in the RFP, Doug? I don't have.
No, our tech team has been doing an internet availability review of locations, and we'll be concluding which ones have the best location and the best internet service available, and trying to pick a spot that's geographically and road-wise most central to each.
Deputy Warden?
Just to follow up, so if they're having difficulty getting internet stability in areas, then I guess I don't understand how people are supposed to vote through the internet.
Well, no, Councillor, it's we're just checking each location. Not every community hall has great internet. It is worth noting that you've got 2 weeks of voting electronically before that final day. We actually have, with 11, we have a lot more walk-in facilities per voter than most other municipalities. We're actually putting much more capacity than is typical.
What could that mean?
I thought when this was being discussed that council had the choice whether we were going to have more polling stations in other areas than just the 11.
So what we've provided for you is the information discovered by IT.
Well, maybe we'll have to hire more IT for that situation.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, I'm just wondering, this is just for a question here. However, if, let's just say we have these 11 poles that we know definitely have to have connectivity. I know that there's some that's going to be a problem for a couple of areas. And however, is there a possibility of voting into a different pole? So people in District 11, can they vote in District 9 for District 11?
Yes. Yes, that I think that was information that I think was provided the last time, that you'll be able to vote from any one of those polling stations regardless of where you reside.
All
Yes.
right, so that would and could eliminate a lot of the problems when people are traveling in those 2 weeks to go to a polling station has connectivity.
But the polling stations are open for 1 day only, is that not correct?
Yes.
Just one?
Yes, the voting electronically is open for 2 weeks, but the polling stations are slated to be staffed for a single day.
Which is the last October
Seven.
Yes.
election day.
And the 2 advance polls.
Yes. That's right.
And the advanced polls are,
They can be, so they'll be located likely in our Annapolis building and our Lawrencetown buildings, so that people can walk into a place on those days as well for advance poll. But if your voting opportunity opens on October 5th for people to call in or dial in or hop on the internet and vote, there's assistance available from the 5th on during working hours, that if people are having issues placing their vote, they can call and get technical support. So there'll be 10 days of technical support. There'll be 2 advance polls, and then there'll be the polls on election day.
It may help council to know this is vetted against common processes elsewhere in the province that have run in a lot of election cycles and have worked well. Large elections have even been done. For instance, last year, Halifax did a by-election for a district that had about 20,000 voters. They did it completely electronically without any walk-in. We definitely want that. We've heard you loud and clear that you want walk-in, but this is a process that we've carefully compared to other municipalities, and this ratio of electronic time and number of facilities can work quite well.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Thank you. I want to be clear, the polling station is for people who, generally speaking, do not have a landline, who do not have a cell phone, do not have a computer, or simply wish to go to a physical place. And when they get to that physical place, there will be an electronic device which they will use to vote. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Deputy Warden.
Well, first of all, I would like to know where that polling station is going to be, where my area is one of the biggest in the county. And I truly don't think that the residents from Springfield should have to travel to the valley to place a vote if they wish to vote, because a lot of them don't have transportation and a lot of them don't have internet in Springfield or cell service. And I thought it was our choice as council whether we were going to have a couple more polling stations in different districts.
We are providing to you what your current staff can support.
But it does not say that we could not hire extra staff for that purpose.
I guess what my take on this is,
Councillor LeBlanc, do you have a couple speakers still?
oh, sorry.
Councillor Sheridan next.
Well, mine was, I was just going to ask if something were to happen that we did get the second wave. I mean, our offices aren't fully operational now, for the advanced poll, like how, is there a backup plan, I guess? If the offices aren't open to have the advanced poll at county offices, where would they be held?
Has any consideration?
We're basing them out of county offices because they're places that we own. They would be a circular, they would come in one door in Annapolis, probably come in one door downstairs and go out the other door after they place their vote. It still is going to be a lot of work for the current staff that you have.
Right.
And I need to add right here that returning officers are normally trained in May. Returning officers have not yet been trained. Returning officers have not received from the province the health guidelines. We're operating as best we can and providing information to you as best we can. I don't know that the training has been booked for August 4th. So we're pretty much in the thick of it by then, and there are decisions that have to be made before that time. We are providing to you the best knowledge that we have, what we have to work with, and how we can make it work with what we have. We don't even know in September or October if any of the halls are going to be open to us. There may be no hall to us. There may be nothing available to us, and it will be purely electronic. So we're trying to give the best option that we can provide to you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, Carolyn. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler?
The way it's set up now, it's just for the valley floor. And anyway, it's not fair to the outlying areas and the mountain people, whatever. Also, well, I guess that's about the way it is right now.
So
I'm not certain that to be
If we
safe.
if we had all poll stations open, give it a self distance and have a safe election as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. I'm not certain that that's a statement that you could make with any kind of authority when we're not actually even certain where those particular polling stations are being placed. Mr. Patterson indicated that the team is attempting to ensure that each of the polling stations is fairly central to each district. So that doesn't, I don't know if that means they're on the floor or if they're further towards the periphery, but I don't know. I do know that there's no possible way we can mount an election with all the physical polling stations that we have in the past. We don't have enough people who've signed up to run those polling stations. And we anticipate that if there is a resurgence of COVID in the fall, that many of the people we currently do have on tap would fall away because they would have health concerns themselves with serving those polling districts. So the notion of the physical election with every polling station being open simply isn't there. If we had the capacity to do it, we could be having a different conversation, but I truly do not believe we have the capacity to do that right now. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So what I'm getting from you, Carolyn, to go back to what you said, so who's not doing their job? The province hasn't done their job in getting enumerators, is that right, trained?
So, no.
Returning officers trained?
That's not what I said.
Well, then you said somebody's not been trained.
I said returning officers, not enumerators.
Yeah, I'm sorry, returning.
The province legislates that municipalities have an election every 4 years on the 3rd in October. The province has a person on staff, the municipal elections officer, who oversees that process for municipalities. It's a provincial employee. There wasn't an elections officer on staff, and he resigned. They've been running without a municipal elections officer for several months, and the months without him have been the most critical for municipalities as they're preparing for this municipal election. So Doug is lucky because I'm on staff and I've done it in the past, so I could give him some help, some guidelines, but I've never worked in a pandemic and I've never worked on an electronic vote. We're in the same boat as every other municipality in Nova Scotia. They've only just hired a person who came on staff on Monday. They have never worked municipal elections. They've worked provincial and federal elections. So they have a learning curve themselves before they can train other municipal returning officers to run the elections in municipalities. It's a very odd circumstance.
Yeah, okay.
If I may, the big thing
I'm-
we're lacking is the health guidance around COVID, and the province is responsible for health as well.
That's right.
And we are
So
waiting to
you
get
guys-
that package.
You guys, I won't get you to say it, and then I'll say it. The province hasn't done their job early in this year. They shut us down. They haven't followed up with hiring somebody to do their job.
The province determined the election would go forward in October.
That's right.
Yes.
That's good. So, it's nothing you guys have done. So
We're still waiting for tools to
point
do
I have
it.
to make here, the other point I have to make is because in my district, District 8, it's like there's 40 miles between communities here, 40 kilometers. So in District 8 alone, I'm looking at probably 4 stations to get people. You're going to have one in Bear River. You're going to have one in Clemensvale, Milford, and Maitland Bridge. So you're going to have 4 there.
Carolyn?
So every 8 years, when there is a municipal boundary review, which is also legislated, it has to be done. The things that are looked at that are developing the districts, it's not only population, it is corridors of transport, where people go to do banking, where people go to do shopping, where people send their kids to school, where their mail comes from. It's all those corridors so that there is a commonality in your district for how those things happen. And that's part of determining the district boundaries every 8 years. The next one will come up in 2024 in 2022 before the 2024 election. So there's so many things that have to be taken into consideration. I understand the rural and remoteness, but we assume those people go somewhere to do some of their things anyway. We have to assume that. Either they're taken to the bank or they do go get groceries somewhere. We're assuming that they're on a corridor somewhere that will be accessible to everybody. We're doing the best we can. We cannot man 4 polling stations in one district because every other district will want 4 polling stations, and we do not have the manpower for that.
A person told me a long time ago is that you should never really assume anything. That we shouldn't be working on assumptions.
I'm only stating the factors that are taken into place when district boundaries are reviewed.
It would occur to me, and again, this is an assumption, but I'd be interested in seeing how it shakes out. I believe that the number of residents of Annapolis County of voting age who have no access to a computer, a cell phone, or a landline, people who have no access to any of the 3, I believe that number will be extremely low. So those who will be actually prevented by capacity from participating in electronic voting, I think is probably an extremely low number. There will be people who will feel more comfortable going to a polling station, and those stations will be open in order to accommodate those people. But that isn't a capacity issue. That's an inclination issue. And again, as Carolyn stated, I think staff, they're attempting to lay out what is possible. And from the options that are possible, we have to select the best option and move forward. But those options that aren't possible, we don't have the capacity to meet, I don't see that it's helpful to belabor those, because if we don't have the ability, we don't have the ability. Councillor LeBlanc?
And I have to agree with everything that has been said between Carolyn and Doug, and because we actually do not have too much control here, and we can plan all we want, but at the end result, we have a COVID guidelines that we have to adhere to, and then there's the staff. You can't make people work, they work or they don't work, and it's up to them. And even if we have 500 people on our list of workers, we could dwindle down to 20 if things change, you know, in the outside world. I guess we're going to have to, just like everybody else, do the best we can as the situation goes forward. And hopefully, like the people who don't have cell phones or can go to a neighbor's house and do their online voting. That's the best I could see for it. I do appreciate all the time that Doug and Carolyn are putting into this, because I surely would not want to be the one having to try to put this in motion for the first time ever, because we sitting here, we all have our different views on what needs to be done. And I agree that having district that's super large is not a bonus, because they don't like to travel that far. However, maybe they might be able to go to a neighbor and do it on the phone. And not saying that I do feel for everybody as far as that goes. And I wish it was in better terms, but we have been dealt with this hand, and we just need to do the best that we can and be ready to change as it goes along, depending on when the dates come around and what's happening in the world. So again, I'd like to say thank you to Doug for taking this on, and thank you to Carolyn, and to be able to give him some backup. But it's all new business as far as electronic voting, so I'm sure that it's it's not fun. And I actually tried to get somebody to you know, I asked a couple people about helping out if they would put in their names, and they didn't want to flat out say no. And then eventually they said, I just can't do it, because I don't know what it's all about, and I don't know what it's going to bring, and this and that. And some aren't even confident in using a computer. So there's so many aspects and levels to this that I think, you know, we have to bear with each other, because we are trying to do what we can for our district, and everybody else is doing the same. So thank you again to the two of you, and we'll move on somehow. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
I have the Deputy Warden, then Councillor Prout, then Councillor Fowler. Deputy Warden. And then Councillor Henry.
I mean, no offense to our returning officer or Carolyn. I'm not upset about that. It's that when we first brought this forward, we discussed this. We also discussed having an extra poll in different areas where they were so large. And then when I received this, it says that it's not possible, which to me it is possible, because if we have to hire another person or people to open these polls, then that's what we have to do. I mean, we often do different things through a council that is not the norm. And that to me would be a decision of council, whether we go that way or we don't. And I mean, we talk about commonality in areas. Well, all of Springfield, kids, banking, groceries, and everything go to Bridgewater. So that's their commonality. Are we going to set up a pole in Bridgewater? No. I'm just asking for them to be able to vote, and they should not have to travel over 50 kilometers each way to go vote.
Thank you. Councillor Prout.
Thank you. Two questions. I'm assuming Doug will know well, I don't want to say in the fullness of time, but fairly quickly, where each poll will be in the 11 districts. Am I correct? And
Yes.
Then
Yes.
a week or two of that. When
Yes.
that happens, would it be possible for us to either meet again or you to contact each member, each counselor, to tell us where it will be located in our district, or to get that word to us? Because I'm sure in the bigger districts, people are thinking, well, it could be here, it could be there, where will it be? I'm fortunate to be in probably, well, the smallest geographic district. But even I would like to know, where will it be in my district, as we all would, especially if you're, I just wondered, is that something we could do? Let us know.
I'm thinking if we could have had that today, if we could have had our technology review completely done, we'd already be telling you that. Carolyn, do you have any thoughts to help with this? It's a heartfelt request from the councillor.
We absolutely will be letting you know where the plan is for when we have a plan where it's liquid, it's moving on us.
I think it's
Thank
worth
you.
noting for council, if I may very quickly, we're giving you an option that has been very well proven in the province. Yes, it's new to us, but it really has been proven, and you're going to see a great deal of reporting. Wonderful thing about electronic systems, you're going to see a lot of detail about where and when people voted. It really has been proven successful that people transition from that walk-in to voting through phone or whatever electronic tools we offer. And in fact, voter rates virtually I haven't heard of a single case anywhere in Canada where voter rates don't jump as you transition to electronic. It's new to us. And Councillor McRoberts, you've made some great comments about that we need to support this with maybe extra communication. And I think that's important too, to help that transition. Thank you. Thank you for letting me interject that.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler, and then I've got Councillor Fowler, then Councillor Hemming, and then I think John would like to speak as well. Councillor Fowler.
Okay, I'd like to thank Carolyn and Doug for the work they put in and what have you, as far as that goes. But anyway, to be fair to the constituents of District 3 and all the other districts, the ones that, the bigger districts that need 2 polling stations should have 2 polling stations, and or whatever it takes to have a fair election for the constituents of Annapolis County. Thank you. And also, if not, I will be voting against all recommendations of this election. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemming.
Thank you. Again, Doug and Carolyn, thank you. I mean, clearly, you have taken into account not only the new territory with the virus, but the budget, the availability of hiring people, and come up with a system that I think is excellent. And if a councillor really wants to increase the opportunities for voting and wants to increase voter turnout, this is the way to do it. Because Doug, I think, hinted at that. The information that I've looked at, if you do this electronically, you get sometimes as many as 30% increase in the amount of people who vote. That's what I'm after. I'm after trying to create opportunities for people to vote. This is the way to do it. And the assumption is, because we've always done it a certain way, that people are not going to drive 40 miles. They may not have to drive 40 miles. They may have to get to their neighbor's house to do that. I think this is, as much as I resist it, because I'm an old guy, this is the transition period that's going to be confusing. It's going to be argumentative, but this is the future. I mean, this is the way we need to be doing things, because it increases voter opportunity. So I strongly support this. And I think, you know, as soon as we, Doug and Carolyn let us know where these stations are going to be, I'm happy with that, and I can defend it, because this is the way we need to get it done. So if there's one opportunity or one positive for having this virus, this has kicked us into a new way to vote. And I resisted it for a long time, because I'm the old guy that likes to hang around and to talk to people when I vote. Those days are gone. This is the new way to do it. So to be able to drive down to my neighbor's house, chit chat and vote, I like that. Feels good to me. So I strongly support this. And I think Doug and Carolyn have provided incredible leadership on getting this done. Again, I said this last time, I don't think anything has fallen through the cracks, and I'm impressed. So I strongly support this. Thank you.
John, go ahead.
Thank you, Warden. Again, the challenges that Doug and Carolyn and their team has faced over the last little while has been related to recruiting people for the polls. It relates to what are the protocols for when we even open up the facility, and they're waiting for all this documentation. So they're trying to prepare and give the most broadest reach, because anybody that has a home line or a cell phone or whatever, they can vote. But it's an educational piece, and I can certainly understand the bigger districts that if people still want to do the drive and vote at a poll or walk and vote to a poll, those options will be less. And so I appreciate the concerns that some of the counselors have, but our team, they need to move forward with this plan. I'm not sure if there's an opportunity to increase a polling station in maybe some of the larger areas, but if that presented itself later, could it be put into the process, Carolyn or Doug?
We will absolutely do what council directs us. Our greatest fear is that we won't even have the 11 come October.
There is a problem with
fear.
recruitment, and depending on how we navigate through COVID, we're doing very well, and it's good, but there could be a phase 2. And what we know for sure is that we're directed to have an election. And that's the definite, and we have to move forward in that direction. And that's what the team is trying to do. And they're trying to find all the possible solutions that are available to them, but it's not easy. So I just wanted to communicate that to council. Your concerns are absolutely well taken. The process that we're in, it doesn't give us a lot of options. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Further discussion, folks? Councillor Proud.
I see in section 3, it talks about seniors, excuse me, seniors home being offered support. I wonder, does that include all seniors homes? I'm thinking particularly of Tibbetts and Wilmot.
Tibbetts is on the list. There are 5 in our region that we would normally go in and do mobile polls for. That would have been impossible this year, given the strains that those terrific places are under. But through electronic, we can help them and support them and let people vote there without us ever going in.
Okay, that's
one big advantage. That's
like
one thing that clearly got easier.
Okay.
That will be easier for them. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that, Councillor Proud. Deputy Warden.
So does that mean we're training their staff to support their residents?
Yes.
Or are we putting staff?
We will train their staff. Now that and this is a process that I've investigated carefully, that we've looked at, that has been done elsewhere in the province successfully. With electronic, once you take away all the control of the ballots, and it now just becomes basically a customer service over a 2-week period to guide residents to to touch-tone phones or whatever tools within the facility, it becomes very possible. And we can help those facilities by getting their resident lists, making sure that they are on the voter list so that there aren't any complications with that when anyone goes and tries. We will support them to the nth degree to make this work. I hope they will. I hope they will see it as a big win-win. I think at least it makes it possible in a year where they probably would not have allowed us to physically go in.
So I have another question on that. Who determines, like, does all the residents in a facility vote, or it's just particular residents that are competent?
It is, every person has a right to vote if they should be offered, and if they indicate an interest in voting, then they should be given the opportunity.
Isn't that the point?
Councillor Gunn?
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's just great. Everybody should be given the opportunity to vote. And I couldn't agree with you more, Doug. But the thing is, I will need more stations. And the thing, I got to agree with you guys, you talk about, if you got a phone, a computer, or whatever, there's a couple of things not everybody is hooked up, especially in my district, as you've heard me talk about before, to the internet or any kind of service that way. A lot of people, your cell phone service, it's not great out in that part of the world. And even landline, not everybody keeps a landline. And then there's one other issue here, and that's literacy with electronics, right? Not everybody's literate with that. Not everybody is going to travel that distance. You've got to have it in their community. They won't travel that distance. So in that case, they just won't vote. But that really doesn't matter, right? Because, you know, if we miss a few, as long as we get most. But it doesn't give them the chance to vote. So that's why, and I will always say this, that we need polling stations. And I'll stick to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn, just out of curiosity, I'm certain there are people in your district who don't have computers and people who don't have cell phones and others who don't have landlines. But do you have any sense of how many lack all three? Councillor Gunn?
It's muted again. Muted again. I'm sure there are a few out there, and some that may have a cell phone but have to drive to the top of the hill to use it. You know, there's all kinds of varying things, and then there's a lot of people that aren't literate when it comes to using voting technically, you know, voting by machine. I know myself, I get, you know, very frustrated sometimes trying to get through a government office when you got to press this, press that, press, you know, what you're looking for. And I, you know, believe it or not, am very savvy with electronics. Not so much, but you know, I've come a long way in the last few years. Not everybody has done the same.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler.
No, I guess I won't bother staff. It's made its decision anyway.
Okay. If there's no further, so we have a motion currently on the floor. If there's no further discussion, would someone like to call for the question? Thank you, Councillor Hammond. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, what I'm going to, and pardon me for a moment, folks, I'm going to do this district by district just to make this really clear.
Aye.
District 2.
What's the motion?
I'm sorry, Councillor Fowler?
What was the exact motion?
The motion, Carolyn, could you read it for us once more?
That
It was-
moved by Deputy Warden Roberts, seconded by Councillor Sheridan, that municipal council choose the full service election plan option as prepared by staff.
Right. Councillor, so District 2, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. District 3?
No, recorded.
Thank you. District 4 is absent. District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7 is yes. District 8? Councillor Gunn? You're muted, I'm afraid.
Nay. Sorry. Nay, recorded, please.
Thank you. District 9?
Yes.
Thank you. District 10?
Nay, recorded, please.
Thank you. And District 11?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So our final tally, Carolyn? Or Wanda, perhaps?
7 in favor, 3 against.
Okay, so the motion's carried. Thanks very much. Let's go on to the next, which is on tariff of fees and expenses for the electronic election. Deputy Warden.
That municipal council approved the attached tariffs of fees and expenses for service required to conduct the 2020 municipal election.
Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Hemming. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by, oh, Deputy Warden.
So have we determined how we were going to educate and advertise on the electronic voting system?
That would be a different discussion. This is specifically on whether or not we approve the attached schedule of tariffs and fees and expenses.
Well, that would be, to me, it would be an expense if we hadn't decided how we were going to present this to the public.
If you have a peek, Deputy Warden, have a peek at the actual schedule itself, and that's not one of the described expenses here.
There is an extra line where we've put near the bottom of the expenses to do a non-addressed mailing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do have, the thing about advertising, it's a very timely thing. And I think as we launch this, communicate, put things on our website, put other things, There will be future council meetings, and I do recommend we continue to look at that. Advertising and bulletins and things are a very timely thing. We can continue to add to this list as we approach election day.
Okay, thank you.
Normally in the tariff, the schedule that you have before you, advertising is not normally included in that. But I did ask Doug if he would include a line item for at least one initial mail out, one general mailing.
Okay. Anything further?
That's additional to what's normally in it.
All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay recorded.
Nay.
All right, that's three nays. Thank you very much. The motion's carried. And let's go on to the next, which is additional capital projects. I'm guessing Steve. Or maybe not. Oh, no, there he is.
Sorry, folks.
No
Yeah,
worries.
so those particular projects are in front of you. There's just a kind of a broad encompassing resolution to that. If you want to put the resolution on the floor, then we can go through the projects.
All right, Deputy Wharton, would you?
Council approve the additional capital projects as presented and funded, and further that they be incorporated in the 2020-2021 county capital plan previously approved.
Could I have a seconder for the seconded by Councillor Morrison? Discussion on the motion.
If I may.
Thought Steve was gonna.
Yep.
Well, go ahead, Steve.
So there's should be a descriptor page attached for each of the projects that I'm requesting funding for. Vehicle
Did we
replacement.
receive those?
Yes, an email.
That was an email. Sorry, I just didn't. I don't know what we're looking at here.
I sent you an email with 4 RFDs included in it. This is the 4th one. There have been the 3 election ones, and this one was the one.
Thank you. I don't have a.
Would you like me to run down the list for you just very quickly, Councillor Gunn, just so you can see?
Please, is this election vendor, election service plan? I have that special following workshop. Is there something here I'm missing, Carolyn?
If you look on the email, there's probably a little tiny down arrow because there's additional attachments below those first 3. Often it only shows 3 on the screen, but there'll be more below.
Was that right? And that was, you sent us that this morning, Carol. I'm sorry.
I sent it last night, and it said this will act as your agenda, and there are.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to which agenda here? Which one? Open in browser. RF1, is that it?
The 4, where you're on number 4 now.
We're on number 4, okay. Sorry, folks. Oh, there we are. Thank you. Terrible to get lost in this.
Oh, I know. You've got the wrong piece of paper in front of you. You do feel lost. Steve, you'd like to speak to these then?
Yes.
Did you just say that if I was on a piece of paper in front of me, I'd be lost?
No, that's not at all what I said. It's terrible to have the wrong piece of paper in front of you and want to.
Oh, okay.
I'm always
All right.
with stacks in these, so I know exactly what it's like. It happens all the time.
Thank you.
So briefly, as I say, there's a descriptor attached to the RFD, the replacement of a 2008 S10 in Bridgetown. The spreadsheet attached, just so you can follow along, the projects are listed in the same order as they're described, and on the spreadsheet, it shows you where we're getting the funding from. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, it shows you what the remaining balance is for each of those funds, and that balance includes the previous projects that were approved in June. So it's the final tally after these, if these are approved. So just to orient you to the 2 pieces of paper there. So the Bridgetown, the 2008 S10, and Bridgetown, the replacement of the 2007 tractor. That tractor does both our summer and winter work. It needs about 9 to 10 grand in repairs to make it ready for the winter, but it's got over 50, like I said, over 5,300 hours on it, so it's due for a replacement.
85,000.
For the and on that, Councillor, that's kind of the upper end. We are going to go out for quotes, but I'm just not sure that some of the quotes that we've got, some of them are like 78,000, but I'm not sure they meet all the specs that we will need. So I just wanted to ask for the upper range in case we had to go that far on the tractor itself. The 2 pickup trucks for the 2011 Colorado and 2012, I call it county operations because they're generally funded from the county funded utilities and separate from anything that's being funded by Bridgetown. South Street, we have a existing water line there. When the water line was put in about 10 years ago, they made an economic decision on the type of service saddles that they were installing. They went with a cheaper version, and they continually rot off in terms of they weren't stainless steel. So the project is to go in and replace about 50 additional services before the province pays, for 2 reasons. One, we won't have to pay for pavement by repairing those individually. And 2, we don't want to be in a position of having to dig up a newly paved road to finish these off. So we're asking for funding to repair all at once the remaining 50 services. The Bridgetown water reservoir is something that just came up this year, the reservoir master meter. It tells us exactly how much water we're pumping into the distribution system, and that's important from the point of view to tell us how much water we're losing in the distribution system after we compare it to how much water we build. It tells us where we need to look for major leaks, but also we have to account for the water that we don't charge when we establish rates. So it's an important piece of equipment for us. It's a bit of a challenge where that meter is placed. It's an extremely deep manhole, and it's got to be 12 feet down. So we've had to essentially manufacture a tripod system that would meet the safety requirements of a confined space entry and move the contractor up and down as he installs the new meter. The SCADA upgrade for the Cornwallis Water Treatment Plant, it's essentially the actual work is happening at the wastewater treatment plant because that we need to free up space at the water treatment plant to properly monitor the systems that we have to monitor. Right now, we're kind of overloaded, and it delays in terms of alarming out or any kind of situation because it just can't cycle fast enough is the very basic solution. And once I talk to the SCADA techs, the explanations kind of get up there in the ether. That's the way that I understand it. So it's really about freeing up space at the water plant so that it can accurately monitor all the systems there. Ravenhaven, it's just a roof replacement on there. The roof requires replacement. There is additional work that has to happen on the inside, but I think there's additional conversation to be had about that. There is, as was noted in our last presentation, some asbestos there, and it's an expensive undertaking to renovate the inside. It's got mold issues, but it also has asbestos tape, which has to be remediated properly. But for right now, we just want to replace the roof and protect the structure itself. The Bridgetown Arena, there's a condenser gasket there that needs to be replaced.
Were you wanting to interject a question right at that point? Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
No, I just wondered why that in our recreation budget for Ravenhaven, we do not have a maintenance column, or I was just wondering why it came out of recreation and culture and heritage account instead of coming out of the recreations budget.
That's simply well, it's a capital expense, so it shouldn't be an operational expense. So
right.
But if you're referring to a different reserve, the council can direct me to do that. I've just targeted that in terms of a presentation for today.
So that wouldn't fall under a maintenance program or anything like that to do with
Not
recreation?
a roof repair would, but not a roof replacement.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Please.
The Bridgetown Arena, it's a condenser gasket. Again, it's about a piece of equipment that I'm not entirely familiar with, but working with BCRA and with the Simco, the supplier and maintenance of this equipment, it needs to be replaced about every 5 to 7 years. So it's not an annual maintenance thing. So we're asking for that $7,500. And again, sorry, it's every 5 to 8 years. When we changed the water supply to the new well system, it added additional calcium to the water in general. So we'll be monitoring this to see how long the gaskets last, because that does affect the life of the gasket. The TIR paving program, that's associated with the upgrade, the new paving that they're doing from Annapolis Royal out to Parker Mountain Road, and the Highway 8 paving from Annapolis Royal out to the interchange. We have our utility services within their right-of-ways, and it's at our cost to to pay for the elevating and the adjusting of the manhole covers and water valves that are affected by the paving. So those are the costs associated with that. Those paving programs will happen this year. We couldn't really bring this forward until we were sure about that they had a successful tender. The Margarettsville Water, again, a roof replacement there. We have three buildings there. One is a building that houses the supply from the reservoir to the treatment facility. That building roof needs to be replaced, and part of one of the two buildings in Margarettsville for the treatment center needs to be replaced also. And again, Nicta wastewater treatment plant, it's the roof replacement of the main building there. There's three main buildings there: UV building, a blower building, and then the treatment and lab facility. And that's the building roof repair that has to be undertaken. Very brief summary of the projects, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
All right, question for Steve. Councillor Gunn and the Deputy Warden.
This thing. Yeah, just a couple of things, Steve. And thank you. Good report. The South Street, where you're replacing the valves with stainless steel in Bridgetown?
Yeah, it's actually the service saddles that wrap around the pipe that come off the pipe and go to provide the services to the individual shutoffs.
I guess my question with that is, if the valves are kind of toast, what kind of shape is the pipe in there as well?
Well, no, the pipe, it's a Blue Brew pipe. The distribution pipe is fine. It's really the service saddles that we put on that were, I will say, an economical decision.
Yeah, subpar a little bit. Yeah, I understand that. Thank you. And at the causeway, I know in that corner, and we have those horrific bumps that we've had for years. Now, for years, they've always talked, all the old boys through the years have always talked that when they built that, they put those culverts in, and the builders on it always wanted to put a bridge over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no, that old iron rock will never settle. That'll be there forever. Well, for years, every 3-4 years, those bumps reoccur. So I'm wondering this time, when they're doing that intersection of work, are they actually going to tear up that pavement this time and put something over those bumps? Or are they just going to scruff off the tops and in 3-4 years we'll be back in the same shape we are now?
Counselor, I couldn't answer that question. That's up to, it's a TIR design issue. My understanding is that what's settling out there is actually, it's a wood frame structure that's actually kind of settling out there and deteriorating over time. I'm not sure how they're going to address that.
Yeah, so that's something better off the left of the public to go after TIR.
Yep. Yeah, you can direct those questions to TIR.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden. It's a good question, Councillor Gunn.
So, I mean, and Steve just said that the cabin at Ravenhaven has asbestos and mold in it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's a mold issue, one little section of the cabin, but and it's on the ceiling drywall, but all the drywall tape contains asbestos. So if you do any work in there, and it's just that age, the building, and any structure that's into the 70s likely has that too. So you have to properly, you just can't go in and rip the drywall out. You have to properly remediate the asbestos before you can do that.
Okay, so is it worth putting a roof on, or should we be moving the headquarters to another building that's on the property?
And that's a legitimate question, but for now, I just want to protect the remainder of the building. Whether we choose to repurpose the building or repurpose the other cabins for a manager's cabin, that's a discussion yet to have. I just want to protect the existing structure because the roof does.
Oh, no, and I understand that, but I just thought I mean, to me, we should have had the discussion, I guess, before this.
I'll leave that for council discretion.
Okay. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. You know, I got to go back to a couple of years ago when we went up there, and I remember Albert saying that this cabin needs a new roof on it, and we talked about it a few years ago, and we said, well, maybe we better save the money and not put the roof on. Well, by not putting that roof on has created a problem in the ceiling, and it's a real shame because it's not a big or difficult roof to do, and probably it's a good one to get out of the way. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions for Stephen? Not, then we've got a motion before us. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our agenda for our open items. I believe we do have a couple of items to go in and discuss in camera under the provisions of the MGA section 22(2)C, which is personnel, and F, which is litigation. Could I request a motion to go in camera under those sections? Moved by Councillor Sheridan and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you back to the open portion of our special meeting of council. We've concluded our business for the day, and I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
Move.
By Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Prout. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Well, have a
Thank
good
you.